Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So Bones has convinced me to talk about an old novel of mine. And I'm super embarrassed about it because I'm always embarrassed about all of my writing. But here we go. I'm going to talk about an old book that I wrote like 3 years ago now, called Starlight. It is a YA fantasy novel that I have trunked, meaning that I have put it down and I am never working on it again. Though maybe I will one day when I'm a decent writer, but for now it is a garbage pile that I don't like. But at the time, I drew a lot of stuff from it. I was so excited about it back then. I drew the characters all the time. I was always trying to write it and make it good. Even dabbled with turning it into a comic a little bit. I can show you here. I had a little comic page that I drew once for myself, testing it out, and then I was like, no, making a comic would be way too much work. But yeah, so I had plans, but it didn't work out. It's not a very good book. But here we go. I'm going to talk about it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy hearing about these characters as much as I loved writing about them. I still kind of love them. I still kind of love the concepts from it. I'm just not a powerful writer. I am not Bones McKay. I am merely Ursula Gray. Okay, so I will get into it, I guess. The main plot is typical fantasy, YA fantasy. It is about Esther. So that's this character here. I have lots of pictures of her that I drew. This is kind of her later design that I ended up kind of sticking with. How I picture her, but early on, she looked like this. Her personality changed quite a bit. Here's one I was also dabbling with. Here's another one, trying to figure out her looks. But this is more or less kind of what I landed on for her. So she is a princess of this land called Ormir. And it's a kingdom that's constantly at war with its neighbor, which I think was called Staller or something like that. Very typical YA fantasy. So her kingdom's at war. She is very frail, I guess. I think in one of the drafts she had asthma and a weak immune system or something like that. She basically was sick all the time, and it left her very frail. And everyone kind of disregarded her because she always wanted to become an officer and fight in the war, but she wasn't strong enough. And her father, the king, was super protective and didn't want her to go to war. And she's always been very fighty because of it. She doesn't like being underestimated. In the first ever draft of her, she was super sweet and cheerful and humble, but later she became very mean-spirited, very headstrong, and very rude all around. Definitely a spoiled princess who doesn't think she's a spoiled princess. Right. So her goal is she wants to fight in this war that she's not allowed to partake in, and she wants to end the war, have her kingdom win, obviously. She isn't the next in line for the crown either. She actually has an older brother named Gabriel, who is the crown prince. Here's a better look at him. Anyways, so she's very jealous of Gabriel because he's actually an officer. He's gone and fought in the war. He's gonna be the king one day, and she's just I hate him. He's everything I want to be, and I hate him, even though he's a really sweet boy. But she's no, jealousy forever. Right, so she gets a plan. She's well, I can't fight in the war. Everyone kind of pampers me. I know how I'm going to end this, though, because I'm smart. So she's I'm going to finish this war by summoning a star to use as a power source for all of our mages. Ormir has a lot of spellcasters that work for the kingdom, and by work is in quotation marks. They're all kind of indentured servants to the crown. Just another common YA trope, where they're kind of forced to work for the kingdom, mostly against their will, with punishment of death or imprisonment if they don't. But anyways, they have lots of mages they can use for fighting. And so she gets this plan to summon a star, which is where the mages get their power from, is drawing it from the stars. And so she finds a spell that can summon one down to Earth, where they can then harness all the power forever. But she can't do it alone, much to her anger, because she cannot use magic. So she needs to get help from one of the mages in the palace, which leads her to, I think, probably my favorite character from this story, Moreau. So I'll show you some better pictures of him. So that's this cutie. He's a mage, as you can see. He's indentured to the kingdom. He works as like an alchemist / apothecary there. He's very talented with magic. He actually makes all of the medicine for Esther and for the king as well, who also has some medical issues similar to Esther, which I think was partly why he's so protective of her. Anyways, so Moreau here, he makes all the medicine for them. He's really talented at it, and he also is a huge grump, and he hates the kingdom, and he's like, I'm only here because if I leave, you're gonna kill me. So he hates Esther when they first start interacting, and she starts bothering him to help her, and he's just like, no, I'm not gonna help you. And then she puts her foot down and is like, if you don't help me, then I'll have you thrown in the dungeon. He's just like, then I'm not making your medicine. And she's like, crap. So they make a deal where he's like, okay, I'll help you summon this star and end this stupid war, but you have to get me out of here. And she's like, okay, fine. The plan on her part is that if she is able to summon this star, she can, like, cure herself of all her medical issues. One of the limitations in their world is, like, magic can't be used on, like, living material. So, like, if you tried to heal someone, it wouldn't work and you just kill them. You can only use magic on, like, I guess, like, you can use it on organic material, like plants and stuff, to, like, turn them into potions and stuff, but you couldn't, like, make a living plant using magic, if that makes any sense. They can use it to kind of manipulate matter, but it kills living things if you use it on them. Right, so her plan is, like, if we get this star, theoretically, it should give us the power to, like, heal and stuff, theoretically. So she's like, if I get this star, I can heal myself, then I won't need you to make my medicine, and then you can go free. And he's like, deal. So they go to work to summon this star. So Esther's also getting help from Astrid, who, she's another one of my fave characters. She's super cute. I was also dabbling with her being the main character, but anyways, so she is Esther's handmaid, helps her with all this stuff. At first, when they first meet, Esther is not happy with her, so Esther has been, like, firing all her handmaids because she has really high standards that no one can meet, and basically she gets rid of a handmaid as soon as they start working for her. And she's kind of gone through all the nobility that is eligible to help, so the crown kind of reaches out to Astrid's family, who is kind of on the edge of financial ruin, and so Astrid kind of gets pushed into the job by her parents because they're like, go make a name for our family and become friends with the princess. And she's just like, okay. So she's super scared and timid and has zero confidence. And she feels like immediately she's going to get fired by Esther. But what ends up happening is that she's actually useful to Esther. And Esther decides to keep her around because Astrid is very good at picking locks and spying. She grew up with very controlling parents, and so she kind of learned how to sneak around away from them. So Esther, when Astrid reveals this to her, she's like, yes, cool, you can stay. You're useful. And Astrid's like, cool, awesome. So they start working together. So it's these three, Astrid, Esther, and Moreau, kind of are the initial team for the story. Oh my god. Moreau, if you're going to tell from some of these images, Moreau is actually Esther's love interest. They sort of start as, like, enemies and slowly like each other more as it goes on. There's another character who I never drew, who also kind of joins the main team later. I think this is him here, but his name was Steven, and he gets engaged to Esther, and she hates him. He's like the sweetest boy. He's like, he's just like another noble from another noble family, and he gets betrothed to Esther. And I think she spends most of the book, like, running away from him. He's, like, trying to help her and save her, and she's just like, nope, bye. But yeah, I didn't draw him a lot. Oh, God, there were so many characters and plot threads that it was so hard to, like, keep track of, and I feel like most of it didn't belong in the same story. Anyways, moving on. So meanwhile, while Esther's doing that and planning to summon the star and end the war, her brother, Gabriel, he is off trying to stop the war as well, but he is secretly trying to take down the king. So, like I said, he's been fighting in this war. He's a super sweetie. He really wants to get his dad out of there, because his dad is a horrible person who basically, like, colonized a bunch of places and has enslaved all the mages, and he's just terrible. And so Gabriel's like, I need to get him out of here so I can be king and make everything better. So he's kind of working in the background to kind of free mages and help people flee the country, and slowly working to overthrow his father. He's also working with Hugo, who is his, I guess, like, his bodyguard / retainer type guy. I don't think I have any big pictures of Hugo either. I think the closest it comes to, like, is this one here. So Gabriel and Hugo are also together co-leading this coup and are in love and stuff. So Hugo, he is very powerful with magic as well. He doesn't do, like, the potions and stuff like Moreau does. He can do more, like, combat magic. There's, like, mages that are kind of like officers in the war. They're called, like, war mages, and they can do more, like, attack magic. Hugo especially uses, like, water and snow for his combat-y stuff. He can hurl, like, icicles, and he makes lots of, like, ice spikes and stuff like that to fight. But he's very powerful in that way, but he's a huge sweetie. So yeah, him and Gabriel are together. I remember there was a lot of tension between, like, they're, like, in love, and Gabriel's like, oh, I can't be with you because my kingdom is awful and you're my servant, and it would be wrong to, like, take advantage of you when you can't really say no if you, like, made an advance on him. And he was like, no, I actually love you, like, God. Yeah, so that was their whole romance. And Gabriel's also working with Violette, who, I think this is one of the close-ups of her. She's also here. So she is working to kind of smuggle mages out of the country. She is, she's from a noble family. Her sister was discovered to be a mage and was imprisoned for hiding that fact. So she's like, I'm gonna go help all these mages so that what happened to my sister doesn't happen to other people. Yeah, so she's a bit of a swashbuckler. She's very sassy, and I like her. I like her a lot. She's cool. So those three are kind of working together in the background to stop this war as well. So meanwhile, Esther, her and Moreau and Astrid, they manage to summon this star one night, and they bring it down to Earth. However, it lands in enemy territory. So, like, and it's not a secret that this star has landed. Like, everyone can see it, and they're like, what does this mean? What is this? So the king is like, Gabriel, you are going to go retrieve the star for us and bring it back to our kingdom, and we're going to use it to stop the war and kill them and stuff. It lands, like, at the edge of the enemy territory. I think it's, like, in a mountain range that, like, sits between the two countries. Anyways, so yeah. He sends Gabriel. Gabriel's like, oh my god, we have to destroy this thing. It's going to escalate this war, and it's going to be horrible. And he's like, we can't let the enemy get it, because then they'll use it to destroy us, and we have to get it and not let the king use it for what he wants to use it for. So Gabriel's like, cool, let's go. And then Esther's like, I want to go get it, because I summoned it, and I want to be the hero. And the king is obviously like, no, you're not allowed. So Esther's like, whatever, we're going to sneak out. Heck yeah. So Esther, Moreau, and Astrid, they sneak out of the palace one night, and they go on this journey to get the star. And so they kind of have to race Gabriel and Hugo to get it first, and it kind of goes through their two storylines of make journeying to this mountain to retrieve the star. On their way, there's like a few random occurrences that happen that were kind of clumsy and not really well written, but basically they get into some trouble. I think at one point they get arrested because someone realizes who Esther is, because she's kind of going in disguise. They realize she's the princess. I think she gets captured or something, and they're going to send word to the kingdom to like go and get her. And then when she's there, she meets Violette, and Violette's like, I'll bust you out of here and help you out. But you have to do something for me. You have to help me free a bunch of these, like, captured mages. And Esther's like, what? No, I will not betray my kingdom. And then she agrees because she doesn't want to get sent back home where she can't do anything. So she goes to help Violette. Somewhere along the line, Astrid and Violette kind of become friends, do the smooches. You know, they were an item that was supposed to get together by the end. They're cute because Astrid is very, like, shy and lacks a lot of confidence, whereas Violette is, like, very confident and very forward, and she kind of encourages Astrid to come out of her shell. Meanwhile, Astrid kind of teaches Violette to, like, chill out and be a bit nicer. Astrid was also, like, a foil for Esther and trying to teach her how to be kind as they become friends later down the road. The Gabriel storyline, like him going to the mountain, like, nothing happened. I remember I couldn't think of anything to, like, go down. So it was very uneventful. And I don't remember anything memorable from it. Honestly. Yeah, so eventually they get to the mountain after all their adventures. They, like I said, they started off as enemies and they slowly start to, like, fall for each other as the story goes on, especially, like, Moreau sees Esther being more, like, kind and helpful. He starts to fall for her and she starts to fall for him as well. He never treats her delicately. He's always kind of like, he's a bit rude too. He's grumpy, like I said. He's very grumpy and blunt and stuff. But he never, like, treats her like she's a princess who needs to be pampered. He's always very, like, upfront with her, and she appreciates that. So eventually they start to fall in love, and then they get to the mountain. They're, like, climbing it. They get like a big snow. Like, this whole story takes place during winter. And I think at one point they get, like, trapped on the mountain because the snow is just too heavy to keep going. And he reveals that he reveals his secret. He's been feeling bad for, like, not telling her this because he starts to develop feelings for her. His secret is that he's actually been poisoning the king and her through their medicine, and she's just like, excuse me, and tries to, like, murder him on the mountain. So that creates a rift in their relationship, which was supposed to be fixed if there were later books. Because of course I was planning to write a series, let's be real. But yeah, so he reveals he's been poisoning them. She's like, I hate you, how dare you? And he's just like, your kingdom sucks, of course I was poisoning you. You've been waging this war, your kingdom colonizes every country around it, like, you're kidnapping children and using them as mages, like, your kingdom sucks, of course I was poisoning you. But he's like, I regret it now because I'm in love with you, and she's just like, I don't care, get out of my sight. I think that's when Esther goes off on her own. She just gets mad at everyone because she's very hot-headed, and she goes up the mountain by herself during this, like, crazy blizzard while everyone else is still, like, back at the camp. And she finds the star by herself, and I think it's in, like, this ice pool, and the enemy kingdom has already kind of found it and has set up, like, a camp around it, trying to figure out, like, how do we actually get this star out of the water and transport it back? So she sneaks in. She basically gets caught immediately by the enemy. In an escape attempt, she falls into the pool with the star. She basically, like, absorbs all the magical energy from it to, like, keep from dying, and she comes out and she's glowing and stuff. And that is when her friends find her. Like, they noticed she was missing and they all went after her. And I think Gabriel and Hugo also show up then. Like, they finally make it to the spot on their side of the journey. So they all find her. I think she explodes the camp because she's just full of magic and she has no way to, like, use it. So it's, like, kind of killing her and kind of comes out in these like explosions. So yeah, they take her back home. They're like, well, we have the star, so cool. So they take her back home. Gabriel's like furious because he had no idea she was out here. And he's like, he could have been killed. And she's just like, whatever, don't talk to me. I think it gets revealed on their way back that Gabriel's been kind of like putting together like a rebellion or like a coup. And so Esther's like, oh my god, when we get home, I'm calling you out as a traitor. I'm taking you down. And he's just like, no, stop. Why are you the worst? Literally. So yeah, so basically on the way home, everyone's like, Esther, stop. And she's just like, no. Basically, it ends with like, they get home. Esther has like basically everyone put in jail except for Astrid, I think. And then the king finds Esther and he's like, man, I'm so proud of you. And it's like all she's ever wanted. And then he's like, we're going to use this star that you have and we're going to destroy our enemies. And she's like, cool. Awesome. And then it turns out that the only way to do it is if he takes the star from her and it'll kill her. And he doesn't tell her that, but he knows that's what they need to do. So the rest of the book is like her friends breaking out of jail, pretty much. I think Violette and Astrid kind of like... No, Astrid... Okay, listen, Astrid is the hero of this story. She like shows up and she breaks everyone out of jail because she's got those lock-picking skills. And she gets like Violette and Moreau and Hugo and Gabriel out. I think actually they save Moreau and Hugo from being like executed. Like just in the nick of the time, they like show up and save them. And they all rush off to save Esther. Because she has like, she gets home, she gets everyone like arrested and stuff. But she's like regretting it because she's like, she has feelings for Moreau. She's also friends with like Violette. She also loves her brother and like kind of doesn't want to see him killed or executed or whatever. And she's starting to have like regrets. So yeah, so eventually they find her just as the king is about to like kill her to get the star power. And they all team up and fight the king, and Esther has a change of heart and helps defeat her father. And it ends with like Gabriel kind of becomes the king. He takes his place as king. Esther still has this like star power. Oh, I'm missing an important part. Oops. So she's still got this star power in her that's like killing her. And in the final fight between like the king and everyone, I think Moreau gets stabbed. Possibly? Or is it Gabriel? One of them gets stabbed and they're dying. And so the mages use Esther's power with the star to like heal them and bring them back to life. And that pulls enough energy from her that she's like not dying anymore. Man, this really needed like a better ending. But basically they use the star power to like resurrect one of the main characters and save them happily ever after, man. Like Moreau and Esther kind of figure out their differences and forgive each other. You know, Gabriel fixes the kingdom, obviously. He lets all the mages go. He works on creating peace between his kingdom and the other kingdom. Blah, blah, blah. Violette and Astrid get together. And I think Esther works as like an advisor for the king now, for Gabriel, because she kind of realizes like, I don't need to be in charge of everything. I'm cool. I'm good at what I do and everything's fine. And I don't need external validation. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so that's Starlight. That is the terrible novel that I tried to write 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe one day, my heart is like, maybe one day I will revisit this and make it into something, but I don't think so, considering I've just told you the whole plot. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed. Those are all my characters. I drew them so much. Like, I was looking through all my old files. This isn't even everything. But yeah, oh my god. I drew them so much. Especially Esther and Moreau, who are like my favorite characters. Oh, I totally forgot to mention Moreau is trans. He's like a trans guy. But yeah, it was like, I just wanted like a YA book that had lots of LGBT representation in it. So like, yeah, Moreau's trans. Obviously like Violette and Astrid are lesbians. Gabriel and Hugo are gay. Like, it was just all over the place. I think in a couple scenes, Esther is like bi, and she also has like kind of a crush on Violette when they first meet. But yeah, Esther just likes people who are mean to her, kind of, and then they fight and then they kiss. Like, but yeah. So there we go. That's Starlight. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Ooh woo. Ooh woo woo.